Hi, and welcome to Deep, Enlightening, Beautiful Conversations. Please be kind and with an open mind, learn, try to understand, or you can agree to disagree. It's okay, but give this a chance. Please be kind. Today starts our Let the Children Grow series, a series dedicated to understanding children's behavior and brightening their future. Today, we are focusing on the SDG number 4, which is quality education for all. Quality education focuses on the whole child, social, physical, mental, and cognitive development, and even spiritual development. Why quality education? Because it helps children reach their full potential and make them better equipped to contribute to society. It helps prepare them for life. We have Mr. Thompson here who believes in quality education for all. Please introduce yourself briefly, Mr. Thompson, and state, your passion for advocating for quality education.
Thank you very much. My name is Harry Thompson, and I work as a writer, a public speaker, an autistic and PDA self-advocate, educator, and consultant.
Wonderful.
I'm the author of the book, The PDA Paradox, The Highs and Lows of My Life on a Little Known Part of the Autism Spectrum, which is an autobiographical account of living life as a PDA individual. So it charts my life from my very conception right up until a month before my 25th birthday. So I explain, PDA from an insider's perspective. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Now, you believe in quality education for all, right? What factors constitute quality education? From your experience, what do you think really helps provide quality education for all?
Well, all of my work centers around autistic children or neurodivergent children, children whose brains and minds work differently to that of the predominant neurotype. So we understand that to be autistic means you are, by definition, hungry for information. You are curious, have an insatiable appetite for learning, because we are prone to developing these very, very powerful interests towards certain areas, which we call special interests. So I noticed very early, my mother noticed very early on, I was hungry for information and I was a very fast learner, but the way my brain absorbed information and the way school would try and teach information weren't in alignment, right?
Right.
So it was a source of confusion to my mum and to a lesser extent my dad, and to all of my teachers who recognized academically I was quite able, but I began resisting quite intensely because I did not tolerate anything that was imposed on me. I could only seek out information that was related to my interests.
I understand.
So nowadays, whenever I'm working with families, I use what didn't work for me as a way to help them. Yeah. So I think it's very important for any teacher to first understand the student as a learner. I could buy multiple different plants and each require different levels of water, for example. I have to learn about the plant before I water. So
exactly.
teachers have to learn about the children before they just cram information into their brain.
I so agree.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. They need to understand, build that relationship with that child, because, we all come from different backgrounds. We all have our different skills and limitations. So it's really good to understand that child. I'm not saying you have to act like that's your child and be best friends, but you need to, for your own good as a teacher, to really grow as a teacher. Exactly. And to really help your children learn.
A lot of people who follow my page, I have a Facebook page, business page, and a lot of people think I hate all teachers because of the sometimes
experiences.
Yeah, and I guess at one time I did, but I realized that to teach is an art. It's a beautiful thing to do.
Indeed, yes.
And so I take it very seriously. And I recognize that we want to learn. Children want to absorb their environment, and teachers want to teach. But something's going wrong. Something's going wrong, in the middle. So that's where I'm like, whoa, let's look into this and see what we can untangle.
Right, because
yeah,
I think, from me teaching, I had to try to put myself in the child's shoe.
Yeah.
And try to remember my experiences as a student. And I think some teachers may not remember that they need to do that to help them, and that they too probably had challenges as a child, and really wished that, the teacher reached out to them, their parent better understood them. So it's really good to put yourself in their shoes as best as possible. Yeah. And, to truly do that, you also need to get to know that child and be compassionate, right? People think teaching is just you go in front of a class and you just teach and you explain. It's not that easy. Okay, it takes a lot of empathy, patience, creativity. What do you think makes a great teacher?
Well, it's really interesting because how am I going to approach this question? So first and foremost, the teacher becomes a student, because when it comes to understanding their students, they are in the position of learning. So first, they have to have the humility to understand and learn about the student and how they learn. They have to think, okay, so for example, in my work, learning is something that will happen organically and spontaneously. We don't set aside time to learn, because we have to wait until the child shows a spark of interest in something. And then we have this window of opportunity. Suddenly they become receptive to the world. They might say, how does that work? Okay, so now we have an opportunity, like the flower blooming. You can't just unpeel the petals. You have to wait till the time is right and it naturally opens. So we wait for the moment of opportunity. And I think the teacher should see themselves as the child's co-explorer. What can we explore together? And the teacher,
I like that.
The teacher should be getting just as much out of it as the child, and both teacher and child should emerge from the lesson feeling equally fulfilled.
Because when you teach, you also learn. You realize what you didn't know. And sometimes it helps you realize, okay, I could have done this better.
Sure.
When you build that relationship with with the child, you get to know them, you even hear their feedback. Did you find I taught this well? Did you enjoy my class?
Yeah.
And they give you the feedback, and okay, yes, let me consider this. I may not take it, I may not use it, but I'll consider it. Right? Because some children may be unrealistic and like, okay, let's play a lot, or let's do this, and it'll be like, no, we also have to learn. Okay. Or I don't want any more math. And I'd be like, yes, maths is important. I would try to explain to them why maths is important. So
that's
also
good,
explaining why certain topics or classes are important really helps encourage that child to learn.
I agree. And that makes it quite PDA and autistic friendly too, because sometimes stepping forward or proceeding with learning is difficult. if it doesn't mean anything. It's like, why am I learning this? What's the point? How is this helpful
Right.
to me? So a teacher has to demonstrate why this is important, in a way that the child can understand, here are the benefits. Here are the benefits of knowing this. You've got to make it exciting. So it's interesting. I don't think we should detach play from learning. I think we need to
important.
We need to make it meaningful,
part of it,
because obviously as we grow up we want to keep the curiosity alive.
Indeed.
We never leave school. I didn't realize I was at school until I left school, because I learn new things every day, because I have passion for learning. So at school it felt like a waste of time, because it was such a traditional approach.
It limited you.
I was limited, and I knew I loved learning. I thought school was confusing, because it's like, but I like learning, but I don't like school. And I thought, oh, okay, I see, because I know how I learn. So it's very important for the teacher to help the child understand themselves and their own learning method, their own learning style, because that could differ from person to person.
So let's really focus on children with PDA. Okay, what were your challenges as a child suffering PDA? What were your challenges, and how did you try to reach out to teachers and have them understand what you're going through, or to your parents? How were you able to help them understand you better?
I don't think I even tried to communicate my distress verbally for years, because I was either, occasionally, if the lesson was interesting to me, I'd do it really well. And this would confuse the teachers, because then I would disengage and I would be disruptive, and I wouldn't want to go to class. I wouldn't want to go to school. My anxiety was very high. And I was diagnosed autistic when I was 14. And by that time, I began to look inside and try and understand myself more. And so by the time I went back to because I went to a few schools, I went to quite a few schools. And when I went to the first school after being diagnosed, I tried my hardest to explain myself, but I didn't really know what I needed. I didn't know what I wanted. I knew what I didn't want. And then an English teacher came along, who just had this very, very, how do I put it? She had a very progressive teaching style. She would join in, and she would say, "What shall we do today?" Including herself, and she would and she would join in. So if we were doing a creative writing project, she would do it too, and she'd say, "Oh, can you tell me how I did and what I could improve on?" So she was like, there was no teacher-student separation. It felt like
that approach.
Yeah.
I love that. I've tried it already, and it works for some students. Yeah,
because
it does.
Because
it makes them feel like they're part of something great. They're doing something great, and they can be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it made me feel, because I mostly found school very confusing. So when this woman came along, she reignited my love for learning. And what I noticed was, it wasn't just limited to her class, because she was an English teacher. So she reignited my love for English. So I was writing stories all night long, outside of class, all the time, because it shouldn't be limited to the classroom. It should be
because of that one teacher, you encouraged them, just one teacher who used one approach.
Yeah.
That truly encouraged you to keep writing, even outside of school.
Because before that woman turned up at the school, we had another English teacher who I didn't like at all. And I can remember him saying, okay, you've all got 10 minutes to write something down. He set us an assignment, go. And everyone else was just writing effortlessly. I couldn't write a thing, because that's when the PDA takes hold. and you feel
Oh,
pressure.
okay.
You feel pressured to
Okay.
write, and nothing comes out. You know, nothing. Your mind goes blank, and
What
sorry, yeah.
what PDA stands for?
Oh, of course, I didn't mention that, did I?
Yes.
So PDA stands for pathological demand avoidance. Not a great name, I know, but it's
Interesting.
it's largely regarded as being part of the autism spectrum. And
Okay.
so if you are diagnosed PDA, you'll be diagnosed autistic alongside that with a PDA profile, right? So
Oh,
it's seen as a profile of autism.
okay.
So children who have this profile will resist the demands of everyday life. So
Okay.
children might find brushing their teeth difficult, getting dressed, leaving the bed, leaving the house, going to school. You get the picture.
Okay.
But they
Right, yeah.
will use a lot of creative excuses to try and get out of things. So demand avoidance is seen right across the autism spectrum. But for example, in a non PDA autistic kid, they might just ignore or run away, whereas PDA kids will use social strategies to try and get out of it. So they'll use a lot of excuses like, my legs don't work, I can't write because I'm a crocodile, I don't have opposable thumbs, you know. So they'll use a lot of these witty excuses to try and get out of things. Very impulsive, a need for control, you know, so that's how it's described, an anxiety driven need to be in control at all times, and a tendency to withdraw into fantasy and role play.
Okay.
So, you know, taking on the role of different characters. You know, I was doing that a lot when I was little, always jumping in and out of different roles. Some of them I'd create, others were characters I'd read in a book or on TV, and often it's a useful mask, because a lot of autistic kids mask, so you can take on the characteristics of someone else and use that as a tool to get by in the real world. And special interests directed at people rather than things. So as we know, autistic kids have special interests like in trains or boats or collecting bottle tops, etc. Whereas if you're PDA, you're likely to have exactly that, but directed at people instead. So that's PDA in a nutshell.
And so masking, how is that for you? How it's really challenging, right?
Now, yes, I don't mask a
It's
lot.
challenging. It's challenging for anybody to
Anyone, it's
pretend,
exhausting.
right?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
So I don't mask a lot anymore because I have a good relationship with my life and the people in my life, and you know, my
Wonderful.
work is meaningful and enjoyable. So the mask is required when you cannot face the world as yourself.
Right.
And it's involuntary. So children as young as 5 and 6 that I work with mask all day long. And the moment before you put the mask on, you say to yourself, I'm no good, I'm terrible, I shouldn't be me. The only way I can be accepted is if I become something else, right?
So you actually told yourself those horrible things?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, because and myself and the kids I work with get traumatized in the world when they are being themselves. So what happens is they put their true self on hold,
right,
and they become someone else, and they go out into the world
just to please the world,
and to stay undercover,
and they are suffering.
Yes, exactly. So what happens is a lot of teachers will say they're fine at school because they're masking. And then because when you put the mask on, it exhausts you, it drains your energy. So then by the time you get home, and home is the safe place, you don't need the mask anymore.
You just let out.
Boom. And then the parents
explode.
And then the parents see a lot of behaviors at home that the school don't see. And then the school will say, oh, it must be your parenting that's the problem.
So they blame the parents now.
Yeah.
So the parents, oh my gosh.
So then, because schools say, well, we don't see any of that at school.
Right.
Children are good, they're well behaved, but no, they're not. They're masking, right?
So making sure children with PDA have access to quality education is making sure, the teachers how can the teachers prepare for that so that children won't mask?
Okay, so this is an area.
They have to be observant.
Very observant.
What?
And
Very
I can't
observant. Okay.
stress the importance of learning about masking enough, because it is an area of ignorance to so many teachers. So teachers have to understand what masking means, because if a child is masking, they don't feel safe in their environment. So we have to do a kind of situational analysis. We have to look around and say, what could be unsafe about this? If you're PDA, it could be as simple as, well, being in school, it's a demanding environment. And so if the teachers don't have a flexible, low demand approach to education, they're not going to be able to unmask. If they're autistic, maybe it's because they are driven to be accepted by their peers. So if they modify their characteristics so as to be more appealing to other children, then they think, oh, good result. Now I'm going to be accepted because I'm pretending to be neurotypical. So we have to understand that if children can't, how can we create an environment in which children can not just be
themselves?
Yeah, right. And to accept themselves. It's okay to be me. That has to take place before any learning, because
even in the home, right?
Maybe
that should be encouraged.
Sure.
As well.
Because maybe they feel safe at home, and that's great, but maybe they don't, because maybe the parents have high expectations too.
Right.
And maybe sometimes the parents haven't fully accepted that their child is autistic. And children will do anything to make their mum and dad love them. So that's okay, I'll pretend to be someone else now, But we all mask. Everyone masks a little bit, when people talk about good, proper behavior, does it come naturally to us? No, then we're masking. So it's a good.
If we are real with ourselves, we do from time to time. Yeah. I have, and it is exhausting.
It is exhausting. Like when you go to a job interview and then you come home and it knocks you out. But the children do it all day.
All day,
every day.
So you can imagine how they feel. Imagine a little child now in the world. Now, they are confused. Of course, so many experiences, so many things to learn. It's confusing to them. It's overwhelming for them. So, of course, I think adults expect so much from children. Yeah. It's really sad because they are now in this world. They don't have the experiences you have, the wisdom you have, the wealth of knowledge you have.
Yeah.
So you really have to practice patience with them and be observant. Really observe your child in different situations. Mm-hmm. Right? And don't compare them. We tend to compare children with each other. Like, why are you not like this child? Or why?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it truly affects how they learn.
We're all individuals.
Right? So, I mean...
Yeah, to make it relevant to tonight's topic, a lot has to take place before any learning can take place. We have to be prepared for learning. We have to create the environment. Are we on the same footing? What are we learning about? Is the child engaged? If they're not, how can we engage them? Working towards shared goals is important. Otherwise the teacher has a goal and the child has a goal. The teacher, I want you to do this. Well, I don't want to do this. I want to do this. That's not a shared goal. You've entered a battle situation. What can you both work towards?
Work together. And we always want, as a child, you have to do what an adult sees. But the thing is, that child, they will be thinking differently. They may think, I want this. Yeah. And you as an adult, you want that, right? But then you all come together and discuss it. And you see it's the importance of learning this. And you try to understand why the child may want to learn that.
Yeah.
And, you all compromise or collaborate in some way. You all work together.
Exactly.
Right? We tend to just want things to go our way as adults and not... We need to be considerate of children's feelings as well.
Exactly.
Be compassionate and understand that they would have their own goals, where they may sound stupid for some people, We are all different. We are all see the world differently at times.
Yeah.
So that's why discussions are important, even amongst adults. Discussions are important to get to understand each other better, to get to understand, people's different issues in this world. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's important because I think if we have more of that, we can truly be more compassionate towards children with autism if we have more of these discussions and bring awareness on this.
It's like,
and so
I was going to say, it's like a paradigm shift,
right.
It's a huge paradigm shift, and it's very difficult for a lot of people because
It is.
there's something called the double empathy problem, which so a lot of autistic kids are described as having a lack of empathy, right? Or a lot of autistic people, I should say. Most of my work's child-centric, so I'll say people. But it's actually a difference in communication on both sides. So where autistic people struggle to understand the neurotypical, it works the same the other way around. It's a double empathy problem. So a lot of compromises have to be made. So yeah, so it's collaboration is a key word. We're collaborating here.
Right.
We're exchanging. And it's for the child to recognize, wow, the teacher
cares
about me, and they can help me. They've got something useful
right.
for me. So that's the thing. That's what teachers have to do. How can I convince the child that I'm here to help them? I
want best for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So trust can be a tricky issue, right?
Because I think hearing your experience, I children with PDA, probably they are so stressed out, so frustrated, and it's really sad that they have to be going through that, because some of us, we are not willing to be open-minded and to to observe and to study and to try to come up with solutions how to do better.
Yes.
Right?
Really.
We just want things to go out or we, and it has to go on this one. It has been done so in the past. Why can't it be done like this now? We need to keep evolving. We need to keep improving.
Yeah.
And
So
I mean, so when did you realize, or your parents realize, you had PDA?
Well, I was late diagnosed PDA. As I said, I was diagnosed ADHD 13, what was called Asperger syndrome under DSM-4, which is an obsolete diagnosis now. And then 4 years later, my diagnosis was reviewed and updated to PDA before I went to try and attend music school. It didn't work out. If people want to hear more about these stories, they're welcome to purchase my book, The PDA Paradox. But because I was living with my mentor at the time, and she knew that I couldn't just go and attend an institution that were going to use what you might call typical autism strategies, because that would never work for PDA, right?
Okay.
So in order to alert my lecturers of the specific nature of my difficulties, they had to know precisely what kind of strategies would work best for me. It still didn't work, right? So it's tricky, because being PDA...
It was a lot of trial and error?
There's a lot of trial and error, and it has to be very intuitive, because every child is different.
Right.
There are general themes like, a low arousal, low demand, flexible approach, collaborative approach to education. Good idea. Sometimes an exchange, rather than just a teacher and a student, maybe take it in turns. Maybe sometimes the child can teach the teacher something, right? To keep it reciprocal. But some kids will want to go to school because it's meaningful. Others will need unschooling. They'll need a totally self-led approach. So it differs. I needed a self-led approach with facilitators. I think if a teacher can facilitate, it's quite powerful.
So is it that you had a lot of teachers on board to help you? You had your parents on board to help you? Did you have a good support system?
Kind of.
Kind of. Right.
Because I compare that time to this time, and we're learning more and more and more about autistic experience every day. So given those times, and it was probably 14 years ago I'm talking about,
Wow.
I think I had a relatively strong support network, given that we knew so little.
Little, right? Yeah.
But most of the time, if I look back at school, I'd say it was a waste of time for me.
Okay.
One or two teachers did really well, like the one I spoke to you about.
The English teacher.
English teacher. And I also, when I was 14, I went to a home from homeschooling organization run by a woman from her farmhouse in the English countryside. And she provided a kind of refuge for children who were failed by the system. Neurodivergent children. So that was a good experience.
Yeah.
But mostly, no, it didn't work.
Okay. So when have you ever been to university?
Yeah, as I said, when I got my diagnosis at 18, PDA, I was going to music college. So I tried.
But you didn't get to finish with music.
No, I couldn't finish.
No. So, and that's it. You didn't.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I don't need any qualification to do what I do, really.
Right.
So, because I'm an advocate, public speaker, writer. So it's like my
So you've never felt discouraged, like, man, I've never been to university. I've never gotten a degree or certification. That has never discouraged you, because at least now you're able to do what you love.
Well, because I see it as I trod my own path. I took the scenic route towards my purpose, my destiny, whatever you want to call it. I look back at my life and thought, oh yeah, okay, that was my own path that I carved for myself, and the wisdom that I picked up was more important than any qualification I could have obtained. And now I'm doing what I love to do, and I don't need anything else.
Right. And so now you're out there to help children who've been through or who are experiencing what you've experienced.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good. And at a later episode, I would like us to discuss more about that. How have you helped those children with PDA learn?
Yeah, so...
And how have you, inspired their parents as well and prepare them, to be able to reach out to their children and help their children and not feel like, oh gosh, this is a burden. I can't handle this anymore. This is too challenging.
I always say to the families I work with, understanding is more important than strategies, because it is imperative that you get to know every twist and turn of your child's condition, way of being, so that when it comes to helping them, it's very automatic. So you know what to do. You get to a place where you know them so well and you understand everything, understand as much as possible, that what to do in certain situations becomes second nature. So I want parents to be instinctual. I don't want them to just listen to me, here, do this, do that, do this, do that. I want to take them on a journey. So at the end of my talks, the greatest compliment I receive is when parents say, thank you, I now understand the world from my child's perspective. To me, that's very important.
That's important, yes.
It's difficult giving specific examples of how I've helped, because so many of these children may not go on to higher education because
okay.
Because they don't have standardized minds, right? So, but if I hear that a family are now in a really good place and they've taken on board some of the things that I've told them, and their perspectives change so as to be more inclusive, and I know that the family are doing well and they're happier and the relationships are stronger, then that's cool as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my answer.
It's okay if they don't go to university. It's okay if they...
It depends. It really
depends, right? What their goal is.
It depends what they're
passionate about, right?
If they are determined to go to university, I will admit it gets very difficult for me at that point, because so many compromises have to take place either side, and then I get concerned for the person's well-being. because I'm thinking, is this too much of a strain? But I have to honor their path, and
exactly.
I
Yeah.
have to do what I can. And you know, I'm always open to talking. I train schools
And learning. Okay.
because I don't give up on it. People sometimes I'm like, oh no, let's just start a totally new system. But I will still prioritize teaching the teachers about all this stuff, so that the children who do want to go to school and go on to university will be in safer hands, more competent hands. So
do you know of any children with PDA who pursued tertiary education?
yeah, plenty of people I know and work with have emerged, you know, from university with a degree, and great for them. And how do I put this? PDA does not mean we can never do anything. It means we do things in our own way, in our own time.
Different way, right?
Yeah. So it's like they have this winding path that, you know, that parents have to, I call it the current, the PDA current, that we have to try and find, because often the child is outside the current, they can't move, they can't wash their teeth, they can't leave the house, you know, they're not in their flow. So sometimes if they get back into it, they find that, oh, maybe it's flowing into the school direction. Sometimes it's temporarily, sometimes they might go back for a year and then come out again. And I always say to parents, it migrates, the current migrates. And some people find their own way to, or through tertiary education. They'll find themselves at a point where they're ready to take exams, they're ready to go on to get the degree, but everyone's path is different. So some will end up going in that direction whilst others don't. And we have to, I mean, well, we're usually fine with it. Parents have to be fine with it, you know, so they have to let go of that vision.
Ensuring your child, especially if they suffer PDA, gets quality education, you yourself, you know, as a parent, you have to be understanding of them. You also have to accept that their path that they, you know, they go to will be different from the path that you traveled on, right? Their passion will be different from your passion.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, okay, oh my God, this is so bad, like the world is coming to an end, you know. So what if they don't go to university? So what if they don't become a doctor? So what if they let them become who they need to become in life? We all have, you know, we all have different skills and we all have different purpose. And as long as we get a chance to be ourselves and to develop our skills, I think we can do so much this, you know, in enhancing this world.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I guess more discussions need to be had.
Yes.
Right? Now, I think this should be the end of this right now, because there's so much to discuss.
There's so much
I think we should have, right? So I'm really glad that you decided to speak on this. It may have been hard for you, I guess, to go back on memory lane.
I love this stuff, really. This is my passion. Talking about this stuff is great.
I am glad you're so vulnerable and you're able to speak out and bring that awareness.
Yeah.
Right? I really appreciate that, because, you know, especially for teachers and parents, I think parents who, you know, who have children with PDA, they're probably so grateful to have you, to have someone who has grown so much and can inspire and is still educated, right? I think it probably really inspires them and gives them hope and comfort, right?
I hope so. And I hope that they look at me and think, my child can end up finding, you know, their passion and their purpose.
Their passion, right. And feel happy, because their happiness is truly important. You don't want them to be doing something and they're not truly happy.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think we so focus on, you need to have this big job, or you need to have this degree. So then you will be happy.
We need to redefine success. I think that's what.
Right. What is success?
Yes.
Right? We really need to redefine what is success.
Yes.
Because so much of us think that success is you just have this big car, this big house, this big degree, and then you'll be happy. No, you should be happy, right? You should be.
look for fulfillment instead of success, you know.
Exactly, right? Enjoy each moment. Don't wait to have something to be happy.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so much discussed on this topic on autism and PDA and what is success and how teachers should approach the situation, how parents should approach the situation, the government,
Yes.
and different institutions. It's really a lot to discuss, and I really hope that we are able to inspire others and encourage us to be compassionate towards people who are children who are different, you know, and realize that they too are different, just may not be in this huge way, right? But we are all different in some way, and we all have limitations, and we love to be understood, or even if not completely understood, at least respected.
Exactly.
Right? And given a chance to be ourselves. So thank you so much, Mr. Thompson, for enlightening us. And I really hope, you know, you have a good day. You take care of yourself. So, folks, this has been a depth conversation, deep, enlightening, beautiful conversation. I hope you all have been inspired. And do look forward for more episodes on autism. Right?
Whatever we need to speak about.
But basically be focused on quality education for those, for everyone.
Yes.
So we're catering for those with autism, with mental illness, for everyone, right? Because that is important for the, you know, to enhance this tool, right? To make this world better.
Yes. Because
we all can contribute to society once we're allowed to be ourselves and allowed to grow. We all can contribute to society. Let's remember that. All right, bye folks. Take care.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.